everybody. Thank you for attending. This is going to be our chat on what to ask on the offer call. I have Courtney and Hannah here with us. And if you guys want to look up our bios and everything, they're all on the Belcastro website, including our query manager links that tell you kind of what we're accepting and what we're looking for, unless we are closed at the moment. But yeah, we're going to go over kind of things you should ask when you're getting a call with an agent, whether or not you know if it's going to be an offer or not, whether or not you know if it's going to be an offer, and things that maybe you may forget to ask or things that we really enjoy talking about. So yeah, let's start right off with you guys. What are some of the typical questions that you think everybody should know?
Yeah, I think probably one of the most important things is when an agent reaches out to you for a call, it might mean they're about to offer, but it also might mean that they're asking for a revise and resubmit. They want to talk about edits. So before you go into the call, I think it's really important to come up with a list of questions, which I hope this video can help you do. I know it's really exciting. This is the moment that you've been waiting for, is when an agent wants to chat. And sometimes it can be easy to just lose your brain, forget everything that you're about to say. So right off the bat, I do think that it's important to find out if an agent is offering you representation. One of the questions that is a good one to ask is if they're offering to represent you on a title by title basis, if they have interest in seeing your other work, and really ask more of those logistical questions about, is it an offer of rep? Is it an offer of rep for this book, or is it an offer of rep for beyond this book? And to talk about some of those larger career questions.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another big one that I usually suggest that authors ask is what their editorial vision for the book that they're offering on is. Because most of the time, whether they're an editorial agent or not, there's usually going to be some things that you need to do before you put it out on submission. And it's usually good to figure out what exactly the agent is wanting to revise. Sometimes it's very, very little. Sometimes there are bigger pieces that need to be done. And you want to make sure that their vision lines up with your vision, because you could be a great client, the agent could be a great agent, but if your visions don't line up, you guys are going to butt heads, and it's important to know if you're on the same page or not.
Exactly. I will say that in line with Hannah's comment about, is this an offer? Is this not an offer? I'm one of those people who actually wait toward the end of the call to offer, just because I'm making sure that, as Courtney said, we have a vision that kind of matches up, that I can tell how you're going to react to edits, or if our personalities match at all, or if we're kind of super, super awkward and don't seem to like each other very much. So I usually offer at the end. So that one may be, towards the end, you can ask, is this an offer, or is this more of a, touch base, see how things are call? Because you're going to ruin the surprise for me if you ask. But I think another thing that I think every author should do is talk about, kind of connected to what Courtney said, in that if there are edits and stuff like that, what is the agent's style of editing? Do they get on a video with you to discuss things? Do they get on the phone? Do they do strictly email where they write up a report of things? Do they do tough love, or is it like a compliment sandwich?
Yeah.
Style. Those are really important, and it can tell if you're going to get along with the person, or if you're going to feel like, if you don't like tough love and they're a tough love person, are you going to feel like bullied or attacked the whole time? Yeah. So maybe you guys just won't see eye to eye, and that's fine. That's totally different. Something people I think forget to ask a lot of the times is that they need to know those styles. Otherwise, they could get too excited and jump at an offer and not realize that they're not a good match at a writing level.
Yes. And even on that note too, there's lots of different types of editing styles, and there's also a lot of different types of communication styles. Are you a person who likes to hop on the phone? Are you a person who likes to communicate via email? Do you like the video call? What kind of communication accommodations do you need, and are you looking for with an agent? I think it's also really important to talk about as well. For me personally, sometimes communication style, it might be, having a DM threads that you've got going on Twitter, where it's just easy little fast exchanges like that. Some people prefer the longer, maybe a monthly update, things like that. But it really all just depends on you and what you are looking for in that agent-client relationship.
Yeah, and going off of that too, like especially so like for me, like I tend to communicate through DMs and email. Like I don't like being on the phone. I don't like video chats. I have a lot of anxiety with phone stuff. If my clients want to do that, that's fine, but that's just not what I gravitate towards. And I always make sure that when I'm talking to them and asking about their communication style, that they know that they can tell me like if they have anxieties, if you have a disability, if you're neurodivergent in any way, and you need to have communication like a certain way. Like also me over here with ADHD, the auditory stuff is harder for me to like hold on to. Yeah. So it's a lot easier to like have something written that I can go back and refer to when my brain decides that it's going to forget all of the details of the conversation that we had. So don't feel like you can't talk about that stuff too, like when you're talking about communication styles, and that you can say like, you know, hey, I really prefer this communication style for XYZ reasons. And, you know, you can start that accommodation conversation early on so the agent is aware of it too and can help you right from the beginning.
For sure.
Definitely. I think that's a huge thing, is that agents are very flexible. We need to be honest if we can't accommodate for something, but most of the time we're pretty open to a lot of this kind of stuff. I know like them, I hate phone calls, mostly because I have really bad hearing issues, and phones just make it terrible. But I also I personally love videos just because I can get to see the person and get the facial cues and not have awkward pauses over the line and stuff like that. So it is great for them to offer you multiple options. Be aware that you might have to do something like a video eventually, just because we have in the industry had some people who have been trying to, you know, lie about their identities, anything like that, as in they say their name is this, but they won't tell us their real name. They're only telling us their pen name.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There are things in the industry that are holding these things back. So it's definitely good to know that both sides are going to be flexible, but they can agree to accommodating you for the majority of the career in the ways that you need it. Another thing that I personally love when people ask me why I got into agenting, I'm just going to say,
good one. Yeah.
It's a fun one to talk about, because you can also kind of understand the personality of the agent and what passions are driving them and what they're kind of picking up. And I mean, for me, it's a great way of also highlighting my background and of what I have done to get up to being an agent and stuff like that. So you're also getting almost like their resume a little bit in some instances, but you're also getting what they bring to the table when they're pitching your book. What kind of passion are they pulling forward with that if they get on the phone with an editor? Because normally the reasons we got into agenting, that kind of informs our selling style. Like a lot of us are very passionate, so we gush about the book a lot. If we're very kind of analytically minded, that we're going to bring up all of those marketing points, earning potential, comp titles, all that kind of stuff. So it does help you kind of get an insider look of what this agent would be like advocating for you as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of shifting gears here, one thing that I always think that authors should ask that maybe is a harder one, and I mean, this goes along with communication too and stuff. What happens if you decide to part ways in the future? Because nobody wants to think about that. Like, you know, when you have your offer and you don't want to think about the fact that you guys might not mesh well, or maybe if the agent leaves, or, you know, things happen, life happens. And it's definitely something that's important to think about and to know what obligations that you'll be under, because you are signing a contract, and most of the time, most agency contracts are book by book. And like, it's not going to be too hard to like get out of that, because it's not meant to like lock you in forever. Like that's not what it's meant for. But it is good to talk about that so that you can know what will happen, like if you guys do decide to part ways, because it might.
Yeah, and other, you know, more of those hard to think about questions too is another question that's good to ask is, what happens if the book that you're signing me on doesn't sell? And that can also be a really good question to kind of suss out the agent's overall style, what their strategy is for it. Most of the times before an agent will make an offer of representation, they'll be thinking about strategy. They'll be thinking about who they want to send this to. They'll be thinking about those comp titles and marketplace positioning and all of that. So hopefully, you know, that first book that you that you get your offer on it. Hopefully it sells, but a lot of times it doesn't. And that of course doesn't mean your book is bad or anything, but it's important to know that you and your agent are on the same page about what's next if that one doesn't sell.
Yeah, and that opens the door to asking them what kinds of ages and genres do they represent. If you're going to write your second book instead of YA, you're going to do middle grade. Do they represent that? Are they open to doing that? Or do they really strictly focus on one certain area? That can open up that every time. And Courtney brought up a really great point on the different kinds of contracts. So ask them, is this a book by book contract? Is this a career contract? Am I the agency's client or am I the agent's client? There's a difference there. And that can be tied to if the agent does leave or leaves the business or goes to another agency or something like that. That can be tied to what happens to you as a writer in that. So be sure to ask that question. We forgot to talk about this, but also ask what percentage they take. I know this is kind of this is kind of to us the obvious, but agents right now, industry standard, you don't take more than 15%. The only time you take maybe 20% is if we use a co-agent for like something like UK rights or film rights or something. That's when that goes up. But for base rights, just selling your book like to work like English to an editor, it's 15%. And if they're asking for more than that and it's not a strict clause like for those other things I mentioned, you should probably run away because that is a big red flag.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also kind of related to that too, related to just the issue of rights is I think you can also ask your agent if their agency has experience selling foreign rights, translation rights, merchandising, film and TV rights, and those kinds of connections. Those are all things that are going to be related to your book and help your career. So you can definitely ask your agent that you're chatting with about those kinds of things as well.
I think you should also possibly ask what it's like in-house, like in the agency. Because I know like Courtney and Hannah and I all have previous history. Obviously, we've all been together for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like asking that kind of thing is like, is it a group that gets on chats and goes over contracts together? Or is it a group that you really stick to your own independence unless you need a higher up help on something? What is that like for the agents? Because I know for us, we have a very tight knit, talk to each other, help each other, share editor manuscript wish lists all the time. And other agencies may have a different approach to that. So that's something you should ask as well to know what you're getting out of the group as a whole.
Yeah, especially if you are talking with someone who might be a newer agent with fewer sales or fewer announced sales under their belt. It's important to know what kind of mentorship and support that they're getting on the agency side as well.
For sure. And in line with that, you should ask to talk to the offering agent's clients as well. Like if they can give you like 2 or 3 clients to talk to, because that's just a good way to know beyond just talking with the agent, like what their agenting style is actually like and how clients like working with them. And if the offering agent doesn't have any clients because they're new, you can ask to talk to the mentor's clients as well. That's a good way to figure that out too.
That's a great tip, is that if they don't have clients yet because they're just starting and they've just started acquiring, ask for the mentor's clients. Mm-hmm. That is a great tip. I didn't even think about that.
Courtney, good thinking.
I had something and I forgot. Oh no. In relation to asking about clients, you can also ask to see a sample contract. So that you can look at the blank contract and ask any questions following up. If there's clauses you don't understand, if there's like no termination clause at all, and you're like, why is there no way for if I want to get out, I can't get out. So ask to see that contract because it's definitely kind of odd to not see it unless you've already accepted the offer.
Yeah.
You should be able to take a look at that and ask any questions related to that. I had another one.
For sure. And I mean, just at it like a more going back to like basics, asking how they put things on submission and what that process looks like for each agent. It should be pretty similar from agent to agent, but like everybody has their own quirks of what they like to do and what they don't like to do on submission. Ask them what the process looks like in general. Ask them how they keep track of submissions, how often they're going to send out. Do they send out in batches? How long do they keep things on submission? How often do they nudge? Things like that. And how often will they keep you updated? I always ask my clients like how they want to keep updated, because some of them like to see the emails themselves and as soon as they come in, and other ones of them don't want to see the emails at all. They don't want to look at the submission spreadsheet. They don't want to look at it. They just want me to update them like every couple weeks if we have something or not. And some of them just like to look at the spreadsheet whenever they feel like it and don't want updates from me personally. It just depends on what's going to work best for you and your own mental health. I guess you're going along there, but it's good to know if the agent, like what the agent does typically as well.
I think it's also, I don't get asked this like ever, and I actually feel like nowadays I would like to be asked it. Hard nose for the agent, like if you're thinking about writing something like a on-page rape or something, or substance abuse, or like anything like that. If there are things that you think might be trigger warnings in that, that they are works they just literally don't want to work on, because that could really help both sides, I think. Because normally, like my clients, they know a bunch of my stuff, and like if it's not on the page or if it's more of an allusion to the backstory, that's different than it being right in my face there. So they can work on certain things, but there are things that we all kind of are like, no, hard stop, we're not going to work on this, or any genres that they literally just feel like they're not good at. Like I personally don't do nonfiction. That's just me, and that's pretty much a hard no. I'm willing to help my clients find somebody for their nonfiction specifically. And you can ask them if the agent is open to doing something like that, if it's for something they don't represent, if they're open to helping you down the road for that. So I don't get asked a lot about hard nose.
Yeah. I feel like I don't get asked about hard nose either. Even like sometimes I've gotten something similar where it's like, what happens if I write a book that you don't like? And I always say there's a difference between me not liking a book and me not being able to sell a book. So count on your agent to like know your market. But again, it's a title by title basis. Most contracts are signed on. So, if you've got that nonfiction and Caitlin's offering you rep and she's like, no, I just don't have the connections for this. I don't really read nonfiction. That's a great time to bring that up is, will you help me find someone to rep my nonfiction then?
I'm trying to think of more because we got a lot of them here. We don't need a huge video, but you gotten any weird questions, like questions that are out of the blue that like totally can answer, but you weren't expecting?
One question that I've gotten is, what is my favorite ice cream flavor on a call, which is, I thought it was kind of a fun, cute question to suss out personality. So for the record, it's Moose Tracks. So.
Yeah, I can't think of any weird ones. I mean, to be fair, I can't remember a lot of crap. So I don't know if I have been asked weird things and I just can't remember.
Blank to me.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Yeah, it's just gone.
Yeah. What about you, Caitlin? Have you been asked anything weird?
I think a new one that is gaining steam that I originally thought was weird and isn't now is, how many clients do you have? Because it's not an easy answer question that people think it is. Because like I have a certain amount of clients, but some of them I like refer to as dormant clients because they take a long time to write something, or they have family things, so they've kind of set to the side for a while. So I think if you're going to ask that question, maybe make it specific about how many clients you usually like have on sub at that one point usually. Or how many client manuscripts do you often find yourself doing a month or something like that? Because you can have a lot of clients and not have a lot of them be active at the moment.
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting, that I think that one's gaining in popularity.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been asked that one before too. And I have to like think, I'm like, wait a minute, how many clients do I actually have?
I think I know how many. I have to like go back and count.
Yeah.
But I think that one was the one that threw me for a loop at one point. Now I'm used to it. I don't think I've gotten any weird ones, but obviously the one that's always hard is, what's your favorite book? Because you're like, I don't know.
I know. Whenever that happens to me, I'm like, I don't remember any book that I've ever read.
No, not a single one.
Just blank.
Yeah, it's like, have I even read a book before? I don't think so. I don't think I've ever read a book.
Not at all. That's not our job at all. But yeah, I think that pretty much encompasses the questions that are the really need to know ones that you definitely should be considering, definitely should be keeping a list. Don't apologize for having a list of questions when you get on a video. We appreciate that. It means you're doing your homework, you're taking care of yourself, watching your back.
Yeah.
So have that list. Definitely make sure you have been looking at other and talk to other writers. Even like if you know any agented writers or anything like that, talk to them and ask what they asked. There's no reason to be in a little bubble for this. And again, like no question's like a bad question, unless you're obviously going like weirdly intimate crossing lines. But yeah, no question's really that bad because the industry, again, agents know a lot more than we realize that authors don't.
Yeah.
So in the end, just ask, and we'll try to be as clear as possible.
I also just wanted to say really quick that a lot of these questions, they're not going to have the same answers like across the board. And there's some red flags that you should be aware of, but a lot of the time a different answer doesn't necessarily make it a wrong answer or a bad answer. So when you're talking about like number of clients or like communication styles and editing styles and things like that, like I said, there are like red flags that you should be aware of, but a lot of the time it just comes down to finding the right person for you, and what works for you might not work for somebody else and vice versa. And so, just be aware of like what you're looking for in an agent as you're asking these questions, and just know that, yeah, different answers don't necessarily make them bad answers. It just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah,
definitely. It's about finding the right fit for your career, not worrying about hurting feelings. We might be hurt a little bit, but we obviously loved it, so we're going to champion you and like retweet all your stuff when you actually get on shelves, and we're going to go buy a book because we loved it. So it should be about your career and who's you're comfortable with and whose answers resonated with you. So remember that going forward. But I hope we were able to clarify some of this. We look forward to comments. If we've missed anything, like if you have like questions on something that you think should be asked but aren't sure if it's cool, put it in the comments. We'll do our best to get answers to you. But thanks everybody for attending, and we will see you next time.